Welcome to PsychLens, where we uncover the hidden layers of the human mind. Today, we dive into a truth so profound that it can transform the way you see your entire life. Your real life begins where your fear ends. Think about it. How many dreams have you postponed because fear whispered, "Not now, not you. Stay with me," because what you're about to hear might just be the spark that pushes you to break the invisible walls holding you back. This isn't theory for textbooks, it's life, your life, waiting on the other side of fear, and by the end you'll see exactly how to step into it. When Carl Jung said, "Your real life begins where your fear ends," he was pointing us toward one of psychology's most powerful truths. Fear is often the wall between who we are now and who we could become. Picture someone you know, or maybe yourself, stuck in a job that's stable but unfulfilling, thinking, "Maybe I should just push forward, keep doing the same thing because it's safer," even though there's a part that wants something more meaningful. That tension, that nagging sense that something is missing, is fear manifest. It's the fear of failure, of rejection, of uncertainty. Jung asks, what if instead of letting that fear shape your life, you leaned into what lies beyond it? Imagine a woman who has always dreamed of opening a bakery. Every Saturday, she experiments with new recipes in her small kitchen. Her cookies are already a hit among neighbors, but she's afraid. Starting a business means risk, financial, reputational, emotional, so she stays in her 9-to-5 where everything is predictable. That decision feels safe, but that safety also muffles her joy. Jung's message suggests that her real life would begin the day she steps past that fear, when she opens the bakery, even if just one day a week at first. It's not about ignoring fear, but recognizing that on the other side of it lies potential, real joy, purpose, alignment. It often starts with acknowledging where fear lives in us physically and mentally. Maybe you feel tightness in your chest when thinking about speaking up in a meeting, or a knot in your stomach at the thought of trying a new hobby. Fear calls out, "Stay inside your comfort zone." Yet that zone is a limited container, often smaller than the person you could become. So the first shift is noticing, that's fear saying stop, and then softening around it without judgment but with curiosity. What might it feel like if you didn't stop? What might it feel like if you didn't stop? Take the example of someone afraid to talk to people, even at a gathering. Maybe they've tried before and felt awkward, so they avoid social events. Over time, their world gets smaller. That shrinking is fear's effect. What would happen if, the next time, they committed to simply greeting one new person? That small step, walking up saying hello, doesn't banish fear entirely, but it begins to dissolve it. And perhaps that one exchange opens the door to a conversation that sparks new friendship or opportunities. Real life, with its richness, begins when fear starts to loosen its grip. Fear can also be internal judgments, the voices that say, "You're not good enough, they'll laugh at you, what if you fail?" But life worth living is less about getting those judgments silenced and more about going forward even with them. Think of a student preparing to audition for a music school. Every voice inside pulses with doubt. Yet if they show up, play their piece with all the uncertainty still present, that is where the real life begins. If they didn't play, they'd stay in fear. But playing, even imperfectly, etches forward momentum. That's Jung's point. Existence starts to bloom when fear doesn't dictate our boundaries. It's also helpful to remember that fear isn't necessarily the enemy. Fear is a signal. It exists because care and meaning exist. It's saying, "This matters to you." A parent deciding to speak honestly with their teen about something difficult, fear whispers, "What if it ruins the relationship?" But that conversation, held with sincerity despite trembling, can deepen trust and connection. On the other side of fear lies bond, authenticity, the real life that comes from being known. Here's another example. Someone wants to travel solo to a new country. They're not fluent in the language, don't know anyone there. Fear of the unknown, of being lost or alone, says, "Don't go." But imagine they decide to go anyway. Maybe they stumble, missed buses, miscommunications, but along the way they meet fellow travelers, local hosts, taste new foods, feel that sense of individual freedom and growth that comes from navigating the unknown. But along the way they meet fellow travelers, local hosts, taste new foods, feel that sense of individual freedom and growth that comes from navigating the unknown. That unfolding story, that feeling of being alive in the moment, only begins because they moved past fear. One key shift Jung points toward is that fear fades when we shift focus from what might go wrong to what we're reaching for. It's the movement toward values like connection, creation, contribution that loosens fear's anchor. Consider someone who's been stuck in a rut of routine, afraid to try online dating. Fear says you might be rejected, but the desire for companionship is stronger. So they send a first message, face that wave of anticipation, and even if they don't click with the first person, the act itself ignites something vital, a story beginning. Real life blooms in those small reaches forward. Of course, fear doesn't vanish overnight. The woman starting her bakery may still worry about sales, about balancing finances. The aspiring musician may still quake before auditions, but over time, each step past fear builds courage. And that courage doesn't mean absence of fear. It's walking with it, letting it be there without building walls around it. That's where life finally takes shape, not in the absence of fear, but in the strength that grows when it stops controlling us. Not in the absence of fear, but in the strength that grows when it stops controlling us. This process of living beyond fear also creates new narratives for ourselves and others. When someone sees a peer starting that bakery or booking that solo trip, they might whisper, "You're brave." But really, it's not courage without fear. It's courage despite fear. And that story ripples out. It says to others, there's more on the other side of your fear too. And maybe someone else recognizes their own held breath, lets it go. Later down the road, fear may still appear, perhaps about a new project, a new relationship, a new stage of life. But each time you have the memory of what happens when you don't stay frozen. You remember how vibrant it felt when you moved forward despite doubt. That memory becomes a resource. That's the real life Jung points to, one sustained by the echoes of past daring, each becoming a stronger thread in the fabric of living. As a psychologist, I see people often stuck, not because they lack intelligence or resources, but because fear holds the reins. Jung's words remind us that those reins can be loosened, bit by bit, act by act, story by story. You start real life not through grand gestures, but through small moments, sending that message, enrolling in that class, booking that trip, speaking that truth. And each moment whispers, yes, this is your life beyond fear. So let me end by offering a gentle question. What's something you've skirted on the edge of, held back from because you were afraid? And what might it look like to lean into it, just a little? That keystone moment, small as it may be exactly where your real life begins. So as we close, remember this, fear is loud, but it is not final. Every extraordinary life you admire, every artist, thinker, or leader once stood exactly where you are now, staring at the edge of their comfort zone. The difference, they took the step anyway. The real you, the one longing for meaning, connection, and growth, exists beyond that edge. Dare to cross it, because on the other side of fear, not only does real life begin, so does the person you were always meant to become. Let this be the moment you choose courage over comfort, action over hesitation, and life over fear.